With all of the craziness surrounding PoE2, after the LA event, our friendly neighbourhood Triceratops sat down with game director Jonathan Rogers to get to the bottom of it. They got into the new item rarity system, mounts, Ascendancies, endgame and more. This was a huge 2-hour interview that I've done my very best to cut down for you here. Let's get into it. Right, we're starting with one of the big reveals here. Jonathan confirmed that the new rarity system will include tiering. So unidentified magic and rare items can drop with tiers 1 to 5. The higher the tier, the more likely you are to get better rolls. Very cool. This tiering will also apply to currency and unique items, only the tier will be hidden. They intend to have some sort of icon instead of the words tier 2 or tier 5. Tri then asked what Jonathan was most excited about with items, and he said,
I'm hoping to do some pretty cool shit with uniques.
He went on from this and excitedly talked about how at first no one will know what the best uniques and builds will be.
There's this feeling, I guess, of like when you've got a new game and like no one knows what's in it yet, like no one knows, no one can tell you what the best thing to do is, and like it's just a matter of discovery. Like there's this kind of like golden period of a game when it first comes out, and honestly, like that is so exciting to me. Is just that feeling of like discovery and like just that moment.
Okay, now let's talk about combat. After adding WASD to the Merc, they realized they needed to reconsider almost all the other skills and classes to incorporate the new opportunities it presented. Almost universally, the creators at the LA event agreed WASD immediately felt better and wouldn't want to go back. Tri asked about the pushiness system in combat, and they said it does a great job of adding physicality to the feel of everything, though they do still have a few kinks to iron out. Party play will work like PoE1 with higher level characters scaling down to the lowest level in the party. Party monster life scaling may need to be higher to account for all of the huge combo potential with skills in parties. For you aura stackers out there, it is looking like aura stacker builds in parties may need a little bit more investment in PoE2. The new active block system also allows time parrying. The example given here was timing a block triggering your shield to explode at enemies. The duelists will likely get some parrying and active block features too, though they haven't finished that class yet. Alright, and talk of the town right now, we got some interesting bits on the crazy new mount system in PoE2. If you're wondering what made them do it, it was literally a throwaway comment in a meeting, and they were like, this is actually great, like, let's make it happen.
Like, hey, what if you could ride a rower? Someone said it, and I'm like, yes, it would be cool if you could ride a rower.
Getting staggered on a mount causes the player to have a brutal stun, which is the longest stun a player can get of about 4 to 5 seconds. They insisted mounts were made for the cool factor and not just the sick MTX that we will get. Tri then asked if other mounts are in the works, and Jonathan responded saying,
I'm not going to promise anything, but once you've opened Pandora's box, you know.
Okay, now for classes, passives, and our favourite, Ascendancies. The passive system, which shows how each node affects your character in detail, is working and is currently in the game. They are going deep with the in-game information, adding pop-outs for each mechanic and even tutorial videos. Keystones are even getting their own video tutorials voiced by Ebin. Ascendancies on character select could be shown, but likely just the names and images as to not overload new players. They are debating how hard or easy it should be for a player to make bad passive choices. Currently, the solution is making the choices more challenging or less obvious as you move away from the starting area.
You need to make sure that the variance, at least at low levels, is not as high as it is right now, so that there's less bad choices to make at low levels.
Right.
But that you still can have bad builds, because otherwise you can't have good builds.
Listening to Jonathan here, you can tell that they really think about this stuff. Okay, on the Mystery of the Witch showcase, so Jonathan said they know some people want to run up to 20 minions, and currently it just ruins visual clarity, so they're exploring solutions and they're trying to figure it out. For PoE2 Ascendancies, they want them to affect your character more than they did in PoE1, with interesting abilities that alter your gameplay significantly. Currently they're focusing on the core feel of the classes. before talking more on the Ascendancies available. The intention is for Ascendancies to have many build options like PoE1, with obvious and non-obvious ways to build them. So it turns out there was actually a bit of a leak with 3 of the Ascendancy themes accidentally getting into the recent press kit.
The person who put them in there just didn't consider the fact the file names gave away gave away names.
Jonathan said one of the Sorceress Ascendancies in particular that he likes right now has some crazy ideas that may be totally broken.
We designed a bunch of interesting ideas for it, and I'm like, well, this sounds cool, and then we'll actually see when we implement them whether or not it's too broken or anything, but, they're pretty interesting.
We learned that the Warrior and the Marauder's main difference is in speed, the Warrior being the slower of the two. Alright, here is all of the stuff that they talked about regarding content. We found out Sister Cassia has a place in the campaign, though Blight is not confirmed. Blight and Harvest are good examples of leagues that would need more significant changes to fit into PoE2. Interestingly, they're actually reskinning certain leagues that they like the mechanics of, but think a different theme would work better. For example, imagine if Delirium didn't have a fog, but instead called forth a storm powered by druidic magic. In terms of new leagues going core for PoE2, Jonathan said that they will likely have more room to add things now the game is stripped back a bit. He also said there is a lot of good things to learn from Last Epoch. People in the office have been playing it, of course, but he said it's not necessarily about copying anything, but looking at what new bars they've raised within the genre, like trading. Okay, hot topic right now, which we actually did a video on recently, and that is campaign replayability. They said they want to do per league campaign randomization, meaning the layout of the acts will change each league using their random map generator tech. The cool thing is the in-game world map will also change to suit these area changes. As this changes, the position of the town entrances and exits even changes to suit the new map layout.
So we're actually trying to make an effort now more to like just modify the campaign just slightly with every release and do a little bit more with that. Yeah. And I think that in PoE2 we'll also be wanting to do the same thing.
There may be a full in-game Ray class continent map coming.
Are we going to get a big world map at the end once we finish out the campaign?
Yeah, sure. I think we should probably do something like that. Just give you a bit of larger context on the world. I think that'd be probably pretty cool.
All right, and now for character power progression and the end game. He said the intention for the end game of PoE2 is that they want players to be able to configure the content that they want to play even more than we can already with the Atlas passive tree. Talking on player power, he said you definitely need to feel like you're getting more powerful with each act. He felt the Ranger in Act 5 was a good example of this. For mapping content, the design goals is still to have a third boss, a third map, and a third extra league content. The map versions of Act bosses will have some new surprises for players, like new ad phases and other mechanical tweaks for the endgame. Try asked, how are you going to keep making bosses impressive, like the pinnacle bosses and things, considering how high the standard is for the Act 1 boss?
It's going to be hard to top some of the Act bosses. Honestly, it's really hard to go even more extreme, but they have to be, right? Like, they have to be extreme. We have to make sure that they've got, like lots of interesting phases, lots of different mechanics and so on. They're just going to have to be It's going to have to be awesome.
They have started working on the pinnacles with some concepts and ideas already in place. This was quite an exciting one. So there's going to be huge bosses coming. We're talking like much bigger than Krutog, much bigger than Kantava. It made me think about the giant turtle hideout map that we got in the recent supporter packs. Okay, now for production updates. The alpha will be in June and there will be an NDA. Jonathan actually gave us some insight into the studio as well, saying that for the LA demo, the office crunch was just brutal and made Jonathan realize they couldn't do that to everyone just to hit a deadline for the beta. He said the content is there, areas, bosses, etc. It's the polish, the balance, and the user experience that needs the time. They had a bit of a laugh about the new early access versus closed beta wording on the website.
So the reason why it says that is literally because there was like some marketing guys working on the website and they're like, oh, we think early access sounds better to people than closed beta. And like, it's more more modern sounding. I'm not sure. Whatever, guys. I guess so. I guess it's just more modern lingo.
Generally, beta feedback from the LA weekend was people needed more uncut support gems earlier on and a little more help with the flask charges. Okay, here's some quickfire community and miscellaneous notes. Jonathan will be back on Reddit when he can find the time. They are reconsidering the marketing plan because they don't want to put unnecessary pressure on the design if something still needs cooking. He said that the item system announcements will probably be coming sooner as they feel a bit more confident on that right now. So one really cool moment was Jonathan telling us to expect things that are totally out of left field.
Obviously stuff to do with in-game, we've got stuff to do with items, we've got stuff to do with, there's some other surprises as well that we still haven't announced about the game that I think people will be hopefully excited for. So stuff that I hope will be just totally out of left field.
Okay.
So we'll see what goes. I mean, there's always more.
Yeah, like mounts. Oh my gosh, that was out of left field. I did not see that coming.
Sure.
And then there was just a couple of nice moments at the end with a bit of a funny one. Jonathan saying how weird he finds it that people use his face on thumbnails.
Every time I go on YouTube and I see my face, I'm like, oh my god, like what's even going on here? Like it's embarrassing, but it's all good. It's all good.
This was a wholesome interview. You can see how passionate Jonathan is about the project, and clearly it pained him to push the game back. Every time we get one of these interviews, it becomes clearer and clearer to me that they are doing whatever it takes to make the best game they possibly can, changing whatever they need to and making big additions like we have seen with the mounts and the unannounced things that Jonathan mentioned. Let's also take a second to give a huge hand to Try as well. His video is up on his channel and the link is in the description below. He was his usual enthusiastic self, but more than that, he was also just a phenomenal interviewer. It felt like watching like a couple of old friends just talking about their favourite game, which I suppose in a way it kind of was. Alright, I think that just about covers it. If you're craving some more PoE2 content, then I just put up our first Ranger Ascendancy theory craft, which was a ton of fun. And now they've mentioned there's going to be an Arcane Archer. I've already started having a little play around with that too. Tomorrow I'll be having a chat with Dreamcore and Try about our 3.24 League starters, Atlas trees and more. And if I don't see you before, have an amazing League start. Friends, Exiles, thank you as always. Ta-da.